Hey, Rob. When you say what program, what do you mean? Jake. Hello, Jake, by the way. Hello, Douglas. Hope you got your issues sorted out with the leap. Hello, Filippo. Great. So I'm going to answer Jake's question. What program am I using? If you're referring to the DAW, the digital audio workstation, then this is Logic. Although, if you're asking that question, that probably means you're a beginner and haven't used anything. And I wouldn't recommend Logic for somebody who is just starting out. Not because it's like loads more complicated or anything. It's just it's a little less intuitive than the one I would recommend for somebody who is. And the reason I recommend it isn't because it's worse or because it's just for beginners at all by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, in many ways, it's kind of exactly not that. But the one I do recommend for people who are kind of downloading a DAW for the first time is Ableton. Having said that, I've never used something like Reaper, or I have used Cubase, but that was a very, very long time ago. So the two that I've used are, actually three I've used are Reason, Ableton, and Logic. So if the DAW is what you're asking about, then this is Logic. If what you're asking about is my live streaming software, then I am using Ecamm Live, although I'm fiddling around with OBS Studio. OBS Studio? I think it's called OBS Studio. It's the new version of OBS. Anyway, I'm fiddling around with that too. Douglas asked a very good question of when am I going to do my Ableton Splurge, which I promised. But what ended up happening was, so I did actually download, I can even prove it to you. I did actually buy, let's go back to him here. Where is it? I did actually buy Live Suite, which cost an arm and a leg, obviously. Totally worth it though. Here you go. See, I bought that at the weekend, and then what happened was I realised just from playing around with it for a bit what an amazing update the new Logic update was, which had just happened. I think it maybe even happened just on the Friday, and I didn't even realise it had been updated. So I was like, there's actually loads to learn there. So I am going to do an Ableton Splurge at some point. It's still something I want to do, but I just haven't had a chance to do it because I've been fiddling around with some of the Logic stuff. So yeah, that's what's happened with that. But I am at some point because I don't. The reason I'm using Logic is because it just happened to be on my computer when I came back to making music. That's weird. I don't understand how this thing works. Hang on. Show inactive. There we go. Oh no, don't worry, Douglas. I know you're not judging. It will happen. one of the ways that I have to run my life because it's just so crazy and chaotic. And why is that muted? Why is that muted? I wish I understood this. Oh, it's not muted. It's that. Okay, so one of the ways I have to run my life because it's so chaotic and there's so much going on. Well, that didn't work very well, did it? Never mind. Is I have to like super hardcore prioritize what I'm doing. I have to kind of go right. What is the actual highest priority here, and say no to lots of things. So when I said I was going to do a Ableton splurge, and in fact I even said I was going to do this idea explosion challenge. I was just going to splurge in Ableton. When I actually did my kind of planning that day, I was like, that's maybe not such a good idea at this point. I mean, I even got as far as setting up Ableton, and I had to say no to it. So this is my final day of splurging in this idea explosion challenge, and I just did this little what's it called, improvisation, which I've taken to saving. I've actually taken to exporting them as separate splurges as well, just as something to see if there's any nice ideas in there. So this is my final day of splurging, which means because we're on day 10 of the splurge, it's a countdown splurge, and that means basically what we're doing in this particular splurge is we're taking the speed, the quickness, probably best not to call it speed. We're taking the speed angle as far as it can possibly go. So essentially doing as many as possible and like just focusing on going fast as possible. It's not the solution to everything. It's not what I always say we must do at all points. Like, I mean, literally pushing it as far as it can go. It's not the only thing that we can do, but it certainly is a great clarifier. And it also, for instance, in my situation, one of the things I found this time is that I haven't done as many splurges as I do usually because things have just been so nuts. What with the new Leap class starting and everything like that, and obviously the ongoing crisis. So I've not done as much splurging as I usually do. So this is kind of like my opportunity to get a few solid splurges in, like kind of 4 or 5 if I'm super fast. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set the timer running. I've basically got until 6 before I need to go to a meeting. So what I'll do actually is, have you got any questions about splurging? Because tomorrow what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing the listening session with my splurges. So I probably won't listen to all of the splurges because it'll be very boring, but I'm just going to show you how I listen and how I kind of think about moving things forward. So does anybody have any questions about splurging at this point? Because we're getting to the end of this Idea Explosion Challenge program. I'm going to continue live streaming afterwards, but probably, depending on how a couple of meetings go, one today and one tomorrow, probably I'll have quite an exciting little project I'm thinking about pushing the button on to announce around this live stream. So yeah, so I will be live streaming afterwards, but this is the end of the challenge. So does anybody have any questions at all about splurging itself? No? Cool. Let's open up. I know what I've done now. No. Save. Cool. And where's the actual file? So it's the same thing. Guri. Hello, Guri. I will tell you in a second. I'm just going to do this though. I forgot to say this is a template. Save as template. Hello, X-Gun. Right. New from template. No. Really got to sort these templates out. It's ridiculous. Make countdown straight again. Right. So Guri is asking. It's a good question, and I'll open up my automatic music machine here. I was wondering about something. If you need to add vocals from a vocalist, how does that integrate into the AMM workflow? Right. Well, the first thing to say is that I have coached many people who do all kinds of different things. One of the guys that I coached is actually a very well-known kind of pop artist. I'm not sure he'd like to think of himself as pop, but he's pop compared to like techno. So it's like it's kind of dance music stuff, but it's kind of in the charts, that type of stuff. And he works with vocalists all the time. So big vocalists, famous vocalists, and so he writes that kind of music, and he has used the automatic music machine. So essentially, you've got a number of different options, and it depends on exactly how you're working with what vocalists. You can either choose to call the different columns. I'll open it, make it bigger here for you. Okay. So really, the columns to really focus on here. I mean, ideas is a column, but what's more important are these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns. Released is just where we put the stuff that we've already released. Okay. And by the way, the project that I'm thinking of pushing the button on is going to sort out the fact that there's not much in this column at the moment for me. Right. So anyway, what you can do is you can either choose to call this sort of system you getting it to a vocalist, because it depends. If you are somebody who is basically delivering finished tracks essentially for a top liner, as they call them, then let's do this one. A top liner, yep. Then essentially what you would do is you would just go through the same thing, and when it gets to release, that's when you send it to the vocalist. So say you're basically completing a piece of instrumental music, and then somebody slings a vocal over the top, then it's the same thing. You're putting it through the machine. You're putting the music through the machine. If, however, the vocalist is coming in earlier, then there really isn't any difference with how you would use the automatic music machine. It's the same thing, really. You probably, depending, would want. I mean, you definitely splurge something out, and then you'd play the stuff. I mean, the great thing about the automatic music machine. It's weird. Where's all my splurges? Oh, no, splurge. Yeah, the great sketchbook. Phew! I thought I'd lost all my tracks there. Yeah. So the great thing about the automatic music machine is that you come up with loads and loads of ideas. So there's plenty of stuff to play any singer. Say, do any of these kind of speak to you? You've got absolutely loads and loads of ideas to come to them, and it wouldn't be very long before they found something that they were inspired by. And then what you do essentially is that you would, depending on when you bring them in, you'd probably get them to sing something over the top, and then depending on what it was that they came back with, if it was kind of if it kind of made you think, well, now I know what this track is and it wants to be, then it's ready for drafting, and it would go into draft. So essentially it kind of works exactly the same. It's just you're treating the singer as another instrument. But as I said, the only exception to that is if you're doing it in terms of, I'm going to finish this piece of music and then someone needs to put a vocal over the top, because that does happen a lot, particularly in electronic music as well. So Filippo, the free writing that Douglas is referring to is something that I get people to do in the coaching calls, not all of the coaching calls, but some of the coaching calls of the Leap. And it's a practice that I do a lot. It's almost like, I don't want to get a woo on you, but it's almost like getting in touch with your intuition, or getting in touch with your unconscious mind, which is really where the action happens. The conscious mind is largely, not completely, but largely just narrates what is going on and notices what is going on. Where it doesn't actually, I'm not exactly sure, but it doesn't make as many decisions as we think it does. I think it's fairly, this could be a controversial point. I'm not sure. I don't think it is, though. I'm not an expert, but I think it's fairly proven that our thinking mind, our conscious mind, doesn't make all of the decisions. It can, yeah, but it doesn't actually make all of the decisions. If not, it maybe doesn't make any of them. It actually just notices the decisions that we're making. It's the unconscious mind that actually is running the show. And so the conscious mind just kind of notices them and narrates and rationalizes those decisions. So what free writing is basically, it's like splurging, but with writing. And I call it writing free because I think it's much more exciting. I found that when I've set myself an action to write free, I do it much more often than when I free write. So what I do is I just write, and I've incorporated that into a lot of coaching exercises that I do with the Leap people. And this isn't the only thing we do. We make lots of music as well, but the coaching calls are actually where we do a lot of thinking about what we're doing, because that we can then apply into the process. It's a lot about what's going on in here. So I get people to free write about various things. A really good book about free writing, which is where my kind of passion for it. I had done it before. It's a little bit like Morning Pages, if you read that, but it's a bit more directed than Morning Pages. It's not as like every morning you write four pages. It's not that. You're writing for a specific amount of time about specific questions. So you ask yourself a question, and then you just write without stopping. There's no editing, and you're not allowed to stop. You've got to keep going. If nothing comes out, you just end up writing the last word or the last letter until it kind of comes again. It's kind of a bit weird. It's quite spooky at times. what sort of ends up coming out of your pen or typing, because you can do it with typing as well. And the book is called Accidental Genius, and it's a fantastic book about this technique, which I use an awful lot. So, but the other interesting thing about it is very similar to splurging. Okay, so let's get on with this. Where's it gone? There. So let's get on with this. It's a bit annoying that I haven't centered this camera thing properly. I wonder if I can do that. Yeah. That's really like my OCD. Hang on. There we go. That's better. Whew. Right, okay. So do get the book though. Like do get the book, Accidental Genius. There's an audio book as well, because he really kind of goes into it. Because I think there are kind of better and worse ways of doing it. So Guri, thanks. That was actually very helpful. Since splurging is about large volumes of ideas, would you consider, in case of an unknown or less known vocalist, instead of me picking a song that seems to work with their voice in my head, sending them my drafts to have their picks? Yeah, I believe that how you get the best out of people is by giving them something they want to work on. Yeah. So, for instance, with my team, one of the first things that I do with them when people join my team is I get them to do a particular exercise, which kind of uncovers what they are really good at and how they like to work. And I also ask them, what would be the thing that you would love to do more than anything else every day? And find out what it is they're actually interested in, because I think that's how you get the best out of people. So certainly when I do my best work is when I'm doing something I want to do. So yes, I would recommend doing that personally. Some people probably would disagree with me, but that's just what I would do. So, what time is it? It's time to splurge. All right, I got half an hour, so I'm going to go, and I'm just going to go, and then I'm going to have to go almost immediately. Let me make it 25 minutes. All right, so I've got 25 minutes on the clock, and I'm just going to start splurging. And what I usually do is I'm going to try and narrate as much as possible, but I might be a bit quiet while I do this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with Omnisphere, and I'm just going to use that. Remember the preset splurge kind of random thing? I'm going to go with that because that saves time. What's going on? Why can't I hear that? Oh, there we go. Right. Okay. Right, we're going fast on this one. As I said, what I do is I tend to let the sound inform everything else. The part, and then the part informs the tempo. That's just how I work. Alright. Found myself getting distracted by the sound and losing the beat there. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Fine. That will do. As you can see, I've written the beats up front here. So these are just placeholder beats, really. I mean, the idea of placeholders in music, it's absolutely fine to use placeholders. Like, if you know there's going to be something there. I mean, obviously, if the core of your... it's not too loud for you, is it? Good. If the core of your music is beats, yeah, then you wouldn't put a placeholder beat in. You might put a placeholder something else in. But, for me, while the beats are important, I can worry about that later. Really, the core of my music, as you've noticed, my particular music, it tends to be the idea, the actual musical notes. It doesn't have to be the same for you in order to do this. What you use as your placeholder is up to you. getting into that. Oh god, here we go. Not sure about this thing. Okay, so that starts there. I might do it. So that starts on the second. I might just bring that there. And if that's starting, that should come in like that. Yep. Okay. Now I think that's enough of an idea. I think this wants to be a bit quiet. Right, this is the only splurge in which at this point we don't export, because I'm just trying to save time. So I will export at the end. I'll export everything after I've finished the splurges, because I'm on a timer, right? What should I call it? Right, freely. Let's do mine. Yeah, maybe. It did sound a bit like that, didn't it? Scream 2.0. Although I would never compare myself to such a fine producer. I'm bouncing. Why am I bouncing? Oh, damn it. I forgot it was just automatic. All right, I'm going to stop the clock there. All right, so I'm at 18 minutes. So just so you know, I'm not meant to be bouncing at this point. I'm meant to be doing this at the end, but it was just an automatic. Obviously, I've done this so many times that I automatically bounce every session without even thinking about it, even though I just said I'm not going to bounce now. That's the power of habits right there. Heard from quite a few people that Scream is like one of the nicest blokes you'll ever meet. I've heard from a number of people. Never met him myself, but there's a lot of good people out there. Right. And on to the next. Right, so we were at 18 minutes. So we've still got the timer. Once again, the reason I love using Omnisphere at the start is that because the sounds, if you compare it to something like Diva. Oh, right then. Cheers. If you compare it to something like Diva. Oh, sorry, I'll do it. It's kind of that the sounds are more complicated. Like there's more to them, which kind of usually gives you an idea. This isn't a preset splurge, so I'm just gonna find something else. I seem to be on a going fast thing today. Let's just do this with a pounding kick drum. And because I'm going quickly, I tend to quantize things just because it just makes everything faster. If I've played it in, well, enough for it to quantize correctly. All right. What's going on? Oh, I see. I think I prefer those on after the second. When I say prefer, what it was in my head was that. So, for those who are leapers watching this, the design idea in my head was after the one after the second beat. So, if you like, the design idea I discovered when I was playing that part. Right. Oop. Should get rid of this window, shouldn't I? There we go. What happened there? Oh, okay. Oh, what will I do? What will I do? What will I do? I've got it set to a weird setting which I'm not familiar with. Let's do that. Yeah, like that. Okay, I've got 15 minutes left. Now I'm sounding like Stefan Bodson. Again, I would never in a million years compare myself to such a fantastic producer. So very kind, Felix. See, the trick with this after I do these splurges is getting them to sound like me. That's kind of that's the goal. Oop. No, that's not what I want to do. I want to do that. Hey, hello, what's going on? Oh, what the hell? I'm just going to leave it. That's how you're going to play with me. I'm also wondering if it would be better. I'm going to just do that again. It'll be quicker. Oh, man. I say it'll be quicker, and then I can't remember what I played. C, G, and B. Right. Got it. He says confidently. Where's my counting? Never mind. That wasn't the same chord, but I've been wasting time for way too long, so I'm not going to worry about it. I don't know why that was doing a weird thing with the whatever, but I'm not going to worry about it. Again, I've been faffing around with this way too long. What I probably need is a Splurge. Great. I'm glad you enjoyed that one. Yeah, that was a good one. And where are we? I don't know whether it was. I mean, it was fun to do. God knows if it was any good. Right. I'll do. Just quantize it. Just quantize. going to go with the first bit I played there. I'm not feeling this one right now, so I'm just going to get on with it. So it is a completely okay thing to do if you're splurging. You're like, there. It's just to get on with it and finish it. Just finish what you're doing. It's okay. You don't have to. You don't have to fight it. Which is how I would describe what I'm doing right now. So I'm just going to go like that, and I'm just going to go like this, and we'll see. Oh, I'm not going to go like that. If there's anything in there for me, right? Okay, so let's call it. Mod soon 150. New from template. Oh, I've got 5 minutes. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And I'll do a quick 5-minute one without beats, I think. I don't have hidden audio tracks. I don't know why. Maybe the virus TI. I've got no idea about the virus TI. If you're rendering offline, and it's an outboard bit of gear, you're gonna have to render the audio first, obviously. Yeah, so I record all the if I'm rendering the final file, then every audio thing has to be recorded in. But I'm not doing that here. I've removed all outboard, so all of this is all plugins. That's why I've done it. It's because it's a lot quicker. So I'm recording, yeah, every bit of gear that I've got in my studio, outboard gear. I have to record the audio in. Otherwise, offline rendering won't work. Obviously. Oop. No. So. Yeah, no. Even if it's a software plugin, the software plugin is just like I presume anyway. If it's like any of the ones I've used, because I've got one for the Profit. I don't really use it actually, but the software plugin is really it's just telling the virus what to do, but the virus is actually doing it. So I don't think anyway. I wouldn't have thought that the software plugin will actually be making the sound. And if that's the case, then you need the sound to be going into the You need the sound to be going in. You need the audio in order to render it. I mean, saying it's a bit annoying is like saying rain is annoying. I mean, I suppose rain is annoying sometimes, but it's like what are they supposed to do? Like why get annoyed with something that it's kind of self-evident that's how it works? Do you know what I mean? It's like if you're not into that, then don't use hardware. I think probably you getting annoyed about it is the problem rather than it being a problem, if you like. Not that you're getting really annoyed about it, Rob, I get that, but it's just a way of thinking about it will save you lots of frustration. It's just think, well, how else are they supposed to get the audio in? And if I don't want that to happen, then I'll use a plugin instead, which is why I've removed. Excuse me, which is why I've removed all of the audio from this particular Splurge, because the focus is on speed. Douglas, just follow the instructions, please. There's no need to ask why. So yeah, so Douglas, when you do the leap, what I would like you to do is not ask me why I'm telling you to do all of the different things I'm telling you to do, and just do what I'm telling you to do. I've done this a lot of times, so you don't need to be checking with me. Isn't it better to do this? Because you don't know why I'm asking you to do that. Okay, so no, it's not better to do that, and there's lots of reasons for it. Cool. Hello, Richard. Anyway, so I'm just finishing this off. I'm actually late I'm about to be late for a meeting, so I'm just going to finish this off with a little piano thing. If it will play. Right. There we go. Yeah, give it a thumbs up. I mean, not this piece necessarily, but this live stream. So tomorrow, that's me done for the Splurge. As you can see, a Splurge doesn't need to be anything. It doesn't need to be anything specific. It's just what happens when you're splurging. And that can be yeah, that could be a number of ideas. It can be very few ideas. It can be anything, literally anything. So fantastic. So I'm going to go and have my meeting now. I will be back tomorrow. Tomorrow I am going to be doing some listening. I've got to do some exporting of these files now, these splurges that I've done, so I can actually listen to the audio file. So I won't be making any music, but I will be. It's the last day of the Idea Explosion Challenge live stream. So if you have any questions at all about that kind of thing, it's your last opportunity to do that. I am going to be continuing live streaming after this, and I'm about to find out what exactly that will entail, but I've got a pretty good idea of what it might be. And I'm excited about it anyway, so maybe you will be too. So until tomorrow, when I am live streaming at the same time. So until then, stay safe, stay healthy, as ever, stay sanitized, and onwards and upwards.